Now, as we continue our deep dive into the nexus of AI and cybersecurity, we're about to touch on something very relatable: the humble password. We've all faced the challenge of managing countless passwords and the vulnerabilities they bring. I'm thrilled to introduce our next speakers from Identity, who will shed light on how AI is transforming the way we secure our digital presence. From biometric authentication methods, like facial recognition and voice patterns, to the intriguing concept of behavioral biometrics, AI is enabling a more secure, user-friendly, and continuous authentication process. But, as with all innovations, there's a balance to be struck between convenience and ethical considerations, especially in terms of user privacy. Now, please join me in welcoming our experts from Identity, who will guide us through the future of authentication in the age of AI.
Today, Roman and I will be representing Identity, and we'd like to share some of our views on and experiences with AI. More specifically, we'd like to show you how AI can be a powerful addition to existing authentication systems. We'll also be giving a demo about what we have been able to experiment with so far, where we'll actually attack our own system that is protected by AI and see if we can get through it. But first, let's have a quick note on the potential of AI, but also the potential dangers that come with it. It's a relatively new technology, and so it raises some questions about accuracy, for example, where in some cases you can get away with some level of fault tolerance. In other cases, when you're dealing with sensitive data, it kind of becomes a different story. So it's important to know when and how exactly you want to implement it. I'm also under attack. So a couple of weeks ago, I read an article about these dangers and the growing distrust against using AI in authentication. And this article mentioned the upcoming AI acts. There are several. So you have the European AI Act, which was launched by the European Parliament earlier this year. But there are several others. You have the Canadian AI Act, the US AI Act, even the ECB AI Act in the Netherlands. And they all have a shared goal, or they want to safeguard the fundamental rights, personal rights, and also the governance on the ethical development of AI and machine learning and robotics in general. And so, there's a lot of slides here. And so, an example of what I mentioned is that, for example, remote biometric identification can be potentially dangerous. For example, using facial recognition software or technology in public areas, which is understandable because the potential misuse there is quite high. But on the other hand, we already know that cybercrime today is using AI in a different array of attack vectors, mainly in identity-based attacks, which is still one of the major causes of data breaches today. And so we believe that it's important that we are allowed to be on an equal playing field, or we risk being put at a disadvantage against malicious users and or organizations. And so I was going through this article and a bit of the act, and it kind of seemed to me at least that it was mainly fueled by a lack of transparency or understanding of the technology behind AI. That's probably also because a lot of implementations today still have a very black box feel to it. You don't really know what it is actually doing and how it is processing the risk calculated on the authentication. And that's why we believe that there is a need for more explainable AI. So it should be a mechanism that can also tell us why a certain automated decision was made. Why, for an example, a user was restricted access, or why an additional authentication step was put into place. And at the same time, it should also help educate administrators that are using AI-driven based technology in their authentication system, so that they can further fine-tune their system, making a smoother process, and also help them troubleshoot. And this is something that Roman also will explain further in detail and show us how we can exactly accomplish this. Now, what is the end goal? It's achieving two things, which is usually the case in authentication. You want a safe environment and you want a convenient environment. Everyone wants to be the assurance that the data that they use and share on digital platforms is safe. But at the same time, we don't really want restrictive systems or systems that pose repetitive authentication steps. That's annoying. So it's important to find the right balance there between convenience and security. One should not come at the expense of the other. And that's also where we believe AI can help us. An example of this already in use today is the use of AI-powered chatbots or virtual assistants that can help users navigate through an authentication process or help them in resetting their passwords. But we should also be able to take it a step further. What we mainly still see today is that a lot of authentication systems have a very black and white approach to it. They are checking users' credentials, verifying OTP, maybe even doing some validation on the device or user agent that is being used. But there could be many more factors to determine whether a user is really who they claim to be. And that's also where AI can be very powerful. Like you already mentioned, AI can work with a lot of data, and it can also process it intelligently and much more quickly than humans can. So we can use this. And this is sort of a transition to adaptive authentication systems. These systems work with a more of a contextual-based approach, or an intelligent authentication process that can work with a lot more factors or do the decision making based on a certain context. And so a couple of weeks ago, I was building my own automation system at home. And I was going through my smart devices and adding them to my network. And one thing I noticed is that these things know a lot more about you than you might think. In my case alone, my phone exposed over 70 different sensors. And I'm sure there are a lot more that we don't even know of. And so simple things like battery level and app usage are monitored, but also more advanced metrics with the use of pressure sensors and gyroscopes, accelerometers. All this stuff can create a lot of data about you and create a real context about a user. And so it can already know at which angle you usually hold your phone or how fast you type in your passwords. That's also very interesting for us because that can really help us in profiling identities or devices. And we can use this data in, for example, mobile authentication processes to much more easily and frequently spot anomalies.
So now I will be talking a little bit more. Is my sound okay? Yeah. I'll be talking a little bit more about ForgeRock Autonomous Access, which actually combines, it's the latest innovation of ForgeRock. ForgeRock is an identity and access management platform. And so they have their latest innovation, Autonomous Access, which actually uses the features that are described here. So it's a fully GDPR compliant system that can be used in your authentication process. It's a context-based anomaly detection, so that every authentication will be processed and looked at the context, and if there is an anomaly, then specific other factors could be taken into account before allowing the user access to the system. It also offers a frictionless user experience, and it's also AI-driven. Apart from all these features that are shown, it also offers the speed and scalability that Glenn already mentioned, because an AI system is far more quicker and faster in recognizing and analyzing a large data set and recognizing anomalies in this. Another also very important part that we also really liked about the autonomous access system is that it can be integrated in your current authentication process pretty seamlessly. So you don't have to adapt anything to your current authentication logic or flows that you have configured. You can simply plug it in and use the AI system to detect certain anomalies, and depending on that, you specify which extra factors will be needed in order to require access to the system. The key takeaway point for the system is actually a risk-based authentication. So the system, the AI system, uses advanced analytics together with AI machine learning models in order to calculate a risk score for every authentication request. So depending on the context, so all the factors that a specific authentication request has, for instance, the user's location, the device, the device operating system, the version, the typing speed, everything that comes in and comes along to the backend of your authentication system can be used to determine a context, and with that context a risk score can be calculated. So autonomous access then makes a decision based on that specific risk score. So we got three options. The first option is a user is trusted, a very high low risk score, so there is no use in creating a lot of friction for a user, so you will simply trust it and then allow it access to the system. Another part, for instance, the user's location has changed or something funky is going on, some anomaly is detected, then you would want that the user goes through some extra step-up challenge, some push notification, some other authentication mechanism to really determine and verify that the user is who he says he is. And then the third option is where it's a very high risk score, where a real threat has been detected. So based on that, you want to immediately remediate that kind of attack to make sure that no malicious user is entering your system and is authenticating with or creating or getting a session. So you want to immediately remediate that authentication request. And then there's also a fourth option that's not shown. That's where it's an unknown answer. So because the system is actually it requires a lot of data to be able to analyze upfront and train the model, and it's also based on actually a feedback loop. So at the end of the authentication process, also the outcome, whether it's a successful authentication request or a false or failure outcome, that also has to be fed back into the system so that it can actually learn and get smarter on every authentication that every user is doing. So therefore there's also a fourth option where the system just says like, I don't really know, I can't determine a real a correct risk score, so the outcome you have to make sure that it goes through a normal authentication process that you have in place right now. For the current threats that are detected, so it's a combination of simple advanced analytics, and all these a lot of these threats that are detected are also implemented using some other current mechanisms. You can implement it your own using a big if-else case, for instance, the allow or block IP address. That's something that has been done for a lot of time. But using the system, it actually combines all of these into one specific system, and that together with the AI training and the machine learning model that continuously is improving and learning on its own, that's the real benefit for the system, because it hopefully will also be able to detect future cybersecurity threats. So this is a list of threats that are detected, but hopefully in the future a lot of threats will be added to this list, but also unknown threats will also be detected. That's hopefully the goal, and that's also the goal of the closed feedback loop, that it can learn from itself and continuously improve the risk score determination that it is doing right now. We'll also be showing a kind of demo for the last two, so the impossible traveler and the credential stuffing. We'll have a look at it and we'll actually try to attack our own system. So we have played around with, for the ForgeRock's autonomous access system, we have implemented it in our own demo environment, and we'll now try to attack it using two specific attacks. First is the impossible traveler, and then the credential stuffing will that's what Glenn will show. So if we could switch to the PC right now. Hopefully yeah, all right. Can everybody see the screen? Yeah, okay. So this is actually from the admin console. So this is the background of the ForgeRock's platform that you can see. That's something I forgot. So first, before we go and demo and showcase the actual threats, this is the view that you get when you implement autonomous access. And so you can actually see a list of a lot of the specific risk scores that are determined, and it's now filtered to only show a high risk level. So all the threats are shown in this kind of dashboard, where you as a sysadmin can also try to learn and see where your threats are coming from. This can become in very handy in all kind of use cases in the security world. I will not go into much of detail for this, but just to showcase that this is something additional that you get when you implement the ForgeRock autonomous access system. Of course, as you can see, we've tested a lot from Belgium, so that's why there are a lot of threats in Belgium. But now through the use of and the power of VPN, we can try to showcase an impossible traveler. So impossible traveler is a threat where a user is authenticating at one location, and then at the speed of light, suddenly it shows up somewhere else and is authenticating from somewhere else, where it's impossible that he could be traveling as a normal human being from one location to another. So we'll try to log in with our demo account Megan. So for instance, let's say Megan is authenticating right here in Ostende. And so no problem, she's with us today and she's welcome to the system. So hopefully we get her profile page, so it says hello AI Megan. And now Glenn will connect to a location around the world. It's set to New York.
It's fine.
Yeah, New York is fine. So hopefully the demo gods are with us and they will not interrupt us with our connection. And then we will try to log in again using the same credentials of Megan. And normally the system should interrupt this authentication request, and the outcome should be that it's a threat and that it will be remediated as soon as possible. But if the connection's working, in the time that we're talking, still Megan will never be able to fly to New York, so the threat will still be a threat. But there, yeah, it's actually configurable. So you can set the threshold for how long that it has to be, and yeah, for impossible travel, you can set like the speed of an airplane flight or something like that. So it can actually also work inside of Belgium. So if you could be able to set up a connection between a VPN inside of Belgium, then it will also work, because the speed at which the authentication requests are moving will still be detected. Taped where the impossible traveler. So you can see Megan logging in as we did earlier. It's a little video, and so she can log in. That's what we did earlier. And then we connect to our VPN, and it is actually connecting.
Yes.
It always takes a couple of seconds, but now not that much.
Was what's supposed to happen.
So then if we open the browser again and do another authentication request for Megan, there you see that it's actually immediately says hacking attempt detected. So the reason for this is even Megan was not allowed to show her password, because we have chosen to be the logic for that if there's a high risk that it should be immediately remediated, and it won't be able to. She doesn't even get the chance to give her password, because it's impossible that she will be at the location that she is at the current time. Now Glenn will demo some other threat, so go ahead.
Yes, this will be a credential stuffing based attack. It's done using a rubber ducky. Some of you might know it. It's actually a hacking tool disguised as a USB stick. And the way it works, it looks like a simple USB stick, but when you peel it open, it actually has a flash drive underneath it. And so what I did is I created some payloads, some scripts that actually automate some authentication. And I will already launch it while I do the rest of the explanation. But I would like to have a volunteer from the audience maybe who can execute this attack for us. Any volunteers?
Thank you,
very
Jeffrey.
simple.
Give Jeffrey
Yeah.
an applause.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's very simple. It's already in attack mode. You just have to plug it in, and we'll step away from the computer and see what it does. Let me just close this.
You can over here.
Yeah, that's USB-C.
Important for the attacker to know where the USB ports are.
Yes. Let's see if it's launching. Okay. So what this is doing, the credential stuffing based attack, is a form of a brute force attack. But where in the traditional sense of a brute force attack, you're targeting one user and retrying a set of credentials to get in, this actually uses a wide array of different, a big array of credential sets. So what I did is I gave it different credentials from a service, and we are retrying it again on the different service and see how many get through, and if we can get as many users logged in as possible. Now, statistically speaking, this attack has only a 0.1% success rate, but when you are working with credential sets of like 1 million entries, that's already 1,000 compromised accounts. So that's not really too bad. And so our authentication system, or our AI process, will detect at a certain threshold, I believe it's 4 or 5, it will detect, okay, too many users.
This is the third, I think.
Yeah, are retrying from the same device, same location. That's not really possible. That's not the usual behavior. And so it should attempt us at some point while we go through all these different users.
I think this is the fourth.
Yeah. Should be one more.
And normally the next one or the one after that should be remediated.
I wasn't counting, so.
So this is a situation where all the credentials are correct in our demo environment, but you have to imagine that the system or the payload will go through a lot of the data that it has gathered. For instance, like thousands, tens of thousands of username password combinations, and it's trying it in our system, and then we will only allow a threshold of 5 for
And there we go.
login attempts, successful login attempts. So that's remediating the credential stuffing. You can also try to configure the threshold as you want, but of course it's not that's impossible that there are 3 different users logging in for a device. So that's another question on how to set the threshold. Okay, so if you can go back to the slides. So this was a little demo on what the system can do right now, but the question is, so we had the impossible traveler, the credential stuffing using the rubber ducky, and now the question is, what's next? So we believe that continuous innovation on AI is needed and will also enable us to create more transparency. So Glenn mentioned that right now it's a lot of the black box question that still be raised a lot of times. So how can we explain why an AI system is actually determining or calculating a risk score in our case, but in general for all AI systems, it's very difficult to create explainable AI, and therefore innovation is needed to open the black box and try to come up with methods where it's explainable and it can be showcased. The heat map that we have shown is one of the things where you can visualize what the outcomes are, but the real explanation on why a specific request has a certain risk score, that's still something that we think is missing and that we would want. Another very important part is actually continuous innovation should be used to equalize the playing field. So right now, attackers, they will not be waiting for some regulations to become in place. They will just use AI systems and all the advanced AI systems to create new attack vectors. But the regulatory systems like the acts that Glenn has been talking about, hopefully they will not really limit the possibilities that we have on using AI as a defense mechanism. So that the continuous, how do you say, the cat and mouse game that is going on, that has always been going on between attackers and defenders in the cybersecurity space. Hopefully AI and continuous innovation on AI can also come up with solutions on how to equalize the playing fields in the future. Another thing is that this AI model that we have showcased now, there was a fixed list of threats that are detected using advanced analytics and AI machine learning. But hopefully this will keep on innovating and evolving so that future threats will also be remediated and that are currently not known, that they will also be included in the current system. And then, of course, the continuously checking of a user's authentication request and its context is actually that fits something that fits seamlessly with the zero trust mindset, where nothing is trusted from as a baseline. So using this AI system to continuously check an authentication request and every request that is made to a system and reiteratively check the context that the user is in, that's something that goes perfect with the zero trust mindset. And hopefully in a near future, through the use of AI and the innovations that are happening in AI, we could hopefully forget about all our passwords and go passwordless in the near future. Thank you very much. I hope everything was clear, and thanks.